Hello again, this is Glenn with Asylum 7 Studios, and welcome to part 6 of our series on creating a complete production website from design to deployment in Drupal 8. And today we're going to be actually diving into Drupal. Now, I had set up several videos I had recorded, roughly maybe 5 videos after the last one that you guys saw, and I really went overboard, beating a dead horse with the static HTML page, and went well beyond where I needed to be before we actually dove into Drupal. So I am re-recording this section of it so that we can go ahead and get to the meat of what was going on. So what you're looking at right now is actually the result of the core template that we had set up. I went ahead and redesigned the Asylum 7 website based on the as I was saying, the core template we were working on, and it's still unfinished, but you can see that it's responsive and uses the same breakpoints that we had set up initially, and it is actually live on Drupal. Today we're looking at the Space Laser Mayhem site. Right now everything is on a default Drupal install, and I've created 3 blank placeholder articles just to give us some content on the page, and I've actually gone ahead and started creating a base theme that is again to be based loosely on the design that we had set up initially. We're going to be making some design changes from that, mainly due to the fact that I went ahead and went a bit overboard with the static design. But anyway, we're currently looking at barest, which is one of the bundled core themes, core templates that are included with Drupal 8. And if I go under appearance here, we can already see that I've set up this Space Laser Mayhem theme. So I'm going to go ahead and set this as the default theme just so that we can see where everything is right now. Okay, so we have a logo that doesn't show up very well. We've got largely unstyled content, and everything looks pretty bare at the moment, but that's great. That's actually good news. And the reason being is I've got the theme set up to kind of strip everything that Drupal does out to some extent. So how was this theme created? Well, the first thing that I did was to go into the themes folder as part of Drupal, and we've created a base folder, Splazers, for that. And a few files are required for this, or really only one, and that is the splazers.info. Now, this is not just a .info file, as in the previous versions of Drupal. This is actually an info.yml file. So if we open that up and look at it, we can see we have the name of the theme, the type, the description, and the version of the theme. Now, I've gone ahead and included the Drupal core version here just to use the semantic versioning, keep things a bit clearer. And I've gone ahead and created a splazers.theme, which just rebuilds the theme registry every time that we reload the page, and I'll demonstrate quickly why that is. Let's just say I wanted to put a big H1 right here in the middle that says this is hard to miss, and save, and with live reload working, there it is. This is hard to miss. So again, that's avoids having to clear the cache every time that we make a change. And let's see. So I have the index.html file, which is the same index.html we had created originally, and I'm going to go ahead and open that up. I'll open that in Notepad++, because why not? Because you've already seen it. And again, this is just the base layout that we've set up and defined. And let's take a look at the html.html.twig template that I've stored in the templates folder. Now, Drupal 8 uses Twig templates as opposed to PHP template. There's not a lot of difference. There's some syntactic difference, and it moves some of the logic processing out of the actual template files because it doesn't really belong there anyway. This is, as you can see, a lot cleaner, a lot nicer. And we've just got the base skeleton here. We have the HTML with all of the HTML attributes, the header attributes, the title, which I'm actually going to be redoing here. Let's see, let's zoom out just a little bit here so I can get a better. Yes, I've got head title array dot title dot name and dot slogan, and those are the ones that I'm going to be using here. And what I want to use for the title is head title array dot, and I want the actual page title first. I want double colon head title array dot name, and this will be the website's name, hyphen head title array dot slogan. Let's just ensure that that is correct here. It is. So let's minimize this. And right now we've got home bar space laser mayhem. As we save this html.html.twig, that should change to home space laser mayhem, and we don't have a slogan defined just yet. So again, these are really, really easy to edit, and if I zoom out here just a bit, I really hate word wrap, but I need to make sure that you guys are able to see this on YouTube or wherever you may be watching it at. But again, these are really, really easy to edit and change. No more worrying about, do we just print this variable? Do we render this array? How do we get this value out? No, it's really simple now. We just use the double curly braces and then the name of the variable. And that's how we get info from Drupal into the template and then display that on the page. So let's dive into the page.html.twig, which I've already got set up here. And again, I've just got all these comments taking up all this space at the top, and we're not really using all of it just yet, but we may. Okay, so let's start here with what we said was the div ID of root. Now in the html.html.twig, it all fits right here into this page section. Like I said, everything outside of this div, Drupal's going to take care of it. And that means the page top, the page bottom, all of our style sheets, all of our scripts, all of this, it's all managed by Drupal, as I said in the first or the second video. But we have here a conditional statement in Twig, and I don't want this to turn into a Twig tutorial. There's plenty of information out there on how to work in Twig, and it's really fairly simple and doesn't necessarily require a tutorial or instruction. It's pretty easy to just look at it and see how it works. But basically we're checking to see if the page header variable exists. This means if we have content that is supposed to show up in the page header at all, any blocks whatsoever, then we will output this header. We'll give it the class of full width and site header, and we're going to set the ARIA role to banner for screen readers, and we'll deal with those a bit later. And then we just have the actual Twig template for page.header, and what this is responsible for is any blocks that we have set up in the structure of the site, block layout. Under header, if there's nothing in here, none of this markup is going to be output on our page at all. Great. So now, the highlighted section, I'm going to temporarily move our breadcrumbs into the highlighted section just so we get some output here. We have kind of the same thing. We have a section, class, full width, site highlight. All of this should look really familiar because it's exactly what we have here. We have a section, class, a full width, site highlight. And here we have our content that would be showing in the highlighted section. We have a container around it right now, and we may end up marking that up here later, but for right now we're skipping it. But here we have page.highlighted, which is just this slideshow block. And that's all it is. We look here, and I don't have a slideshow block created yet, but we just moved our breadcrumbs from disabled into highlighted. And now when we save the blocks and go back to the site, we can see that, let's see, well, they would be. I think I have them disabled. That makes me feel a little foolish, but let's just say, for instance, I go back into the block layout and grab this powered by Drupal. Sure, why not? Let's put that in the highlight right now. That's an important piece of information. Highlighted, powered by Drupal. Save blocks. Now when we go back to the site, we see, there it is, powered by Drupal, right underneath the header where it should be. So next we have the actual full width site primary content, just as we did here, full width site primary content. And nested in there we have a main, which is conditionally loaded. If the page has content, load this section. And we've got a couple of output areas for Drupal to place information, just the messages coming from Drupal debug messages. Let's see if I can give you an example. Let's go into block layout again, just because it's a good place to go. Save blocks for no reason at all. And here we go. This is the messages. This section here. And this is where it'll actually output in the markup. And we've got the help right here, which should take care of this section. If we were going to be using this in an admin theme, which we're not, but if we have anything that's going to render in the help section, that's where it's going to go. Next, we have this confusing little section here, and it's not really required, especially if we're going to be outputting our page titles directly within the block, but for now I wanted to just leave it in there for demonstration purposes. And if we go back here to demonstrate block regions, again we see that we have the header, the highlighted, the help, then we have this title, the way that it's being output here, and it is again just the page title. Tabs is a little bit more difficult to explain, but if I were to exit the block region demonstration and go over to the home page, we can open this article. Let's just say we want to view this article. It's an interesting piece of content that was well written, and here we see the tabs. And these are so that we can quickly edit this article in place on the page. It's not required by any means, but it will make administration a bit easier on some of my users for me. And then finally, at the end of the main section, we actually have the page content, and this is going to vary by page. Here the page content is actually rendering the full article. On the home page here, we just have the default news feed, and this is all the main content. It's all going to vary. We're going to configure views for each of our major pages and configure content types, and that's going to take care of all that for us. But again, this is all to be handled by Drupal and to be styled by us later. Okay, next, and this is the first place we really start to differentiate between our markup here that we have with all of our articles from this template. Now this markup has a single sidebar, and I've got it labeled sidebar first. Now why did I label it sidebar first? In case I wanted a sidebar second. So all I've done here is create a pair of asides, and I've labeled them site, sidebar first, role is complementary, and then I just put the content in there as well. And all of these blocks that are being placed into the sidebar will be placed into the region within the CMS. And the same for the second sidebar. The only difference is, again, if there's no content to be rendered in the sidebar, the entire element will be non-existent. And we can actually conditionally style this root element based on how many sidebars we have. We'll get to that later. Moving on, we have the full width site footer. Or no, we actually skipped a section. We skipped the site feature ticker. Okay, well then, let's go ahead and add this region. Now I'll need to add this to the info.yml, but I'll get to that in a moment. Let's see, so we have section dot full width. I can't spell. Dot site feature ticker. Let's create that. And in here, let's say page dot feature. I believe there may be a default region for that. Let's see. If there is, we don't have to add anything at all. So let's go to structure, block layout, and the regions we have. We do not have a featured region. Oh well, we'll add it. That's not really very important. So we'll just conditionally render this, and we'll say if page.featured, then output this, and then we'll just duplicate this end if. Wait a second, what happened there? Oh, I had it selected. Okay. Copy this end if right here, save the page, and demonstrate block regions. That, I believe, is what we want to do. So the thing about adding a region in Drupal, if you include one, you kind of have to include them all. So let's go into Bartik for a moment. Let's look at the bartics.info.yml, and we can see all of the regions that it has included. And we can go a bit further than Bartik did. And let's see, we have featured here, we have sidebar first, sidebar second. We do not need these 3 regions, or do we? Let me think on that. And then we have 4 footer columns and footer itself. Yeah, let's remove these for now, and we'll add them later as we need them. I would rather have a stripped down bare bones piece of code than have everything that you ain't gonna need. Okay, so that looks good. Now we actually will need to revisit the appearance page to re-index this YML file, and should just be able to go back to home, and well, we have nothing in there. So back to structure and block layout, and watch this thing make a liar out of me. It did. So again, now we have to clear the cache. So we'll just hit clear all caches. And after a moment, it should refresh. There we go. And finally, we can go back to structure, to block layout, demonstrate block regions. We do, in fact, have a featured section, but there's nothing in the section, so we're just outputting it by the footer there. So let's just say we wanted to put, I don't know, let's, yeah, we don't have a block for it yet. I'm not going to worry with it too much. We do have the section there now. And that's it. We're pretty well matching the setup that we had in our original index.html. Back to the last section, the footer, full width site footer, roles content info. Again, we just have page.footer. And the way we're going to be handling this is we're going to have the container, the grid row, however we decide to style and theme that. And again, we're just going to place 4 blocks into that section with a certain style, telling us that how many columns they're going to span, what screen size they're going to be visible at. And the elements themselves will probably not say that. Again, that will be included in the SAS files that we've already created. And we're going to be rewriting those very soon. And in the next video, I think I'm going to actually start tackling some of these individual blocks and various sections. So let's exit block region demonstration, back to the home, and let's just view the source on this one more time. Inspect element, and let's zoom in a bit here so it's easier to read. And we have everything that we just laid out. We have the full width site header, full width site highlight, primary content. We're missing the featured section, but again, that's because we don't have a block there. And then we have the full width site footer. And all of this is contained nicely within this div ID of root. So that is it. That is the easiest explanation that I could come up with in under half an hour on how to set up a base Drupal 8 theme. There are a few other pieces of information available out on the web on how to take care of this and how to set up a theme, but again, they don't really go too far in depth on creating the website, so that's why we're here, why we're doing this tutorial series. Again, I don't want to cover the installation of software. All of that's been covered before. It's really easy to find. And if you have any questions, just let us know in the comments. We'll get back to you just as soon as we can, and maybe even point you towards some resources to help you get Drupal installed, to help you get your base template set up in much the same way that we did here. And yeah, I think that's pretty well covered it for this video. So again, this is Glenn with Asylum 7. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next one.